Let's talk now, shall we, about the BBC. Hugh Edwards is amongst the BBC's highest-paying stars of the last year, despite being suspended in July 2023, as we know, amidst allegations of misconduct. He resigned earlier this year. He was paid between £475,000 and £479,000 in the 2023-24 financial year, making him the broadcaster's third highest paid presenters. This is the annual report, essentially, where the BBC has to tell you how much they're paying all of these presenters. Now, Tim Davie obviously defending the BBC at that time, but then you have to look at some of these salaries. They're just bonkers. You've got Gary Lineker, 1.35 million. You've got Zoe Ball, nearly £1 million for working on a radio show. This is Radio 2, of course, the breakfast show there. And then you've got people like Alan Shearer, Fiona Bruce, Lauren Laverne, Greg James, Stephen Nolan. Stephen Nolan paid an absolute fortune for working in Northern Ireland. One has to ask, is that appropriate? There's also something quite interesting here. When you look at the news presenters, and you might argue that all news presenters actually should be paid the same amount for presenting the news. You've got Hugh Edwards on 479. You've then got Fiona Bruce, 409, Nick Robinson, 349, Nagaman Chetty, who does breakfast, 349, Michelle Hussein, 344, Sophie Rayworth, down 40,000. 329,999. I wonder how she feels about that, taking a £40,000 pay cut. Extraordinary. John Mayer, ex-BBC producer and author of several books about the BBC and author of How Do We Pay for the BBC After 2027, joins me now. Good morning, John.
Good morning, David. Good morning. Why are you all so obsessed with stars? You know, there's only the BBC real stars pay. But how much do you get paid?
Nothing like that, let me tell you.
How much do Ant and Dec get paid? Do you know? Ant and Dec get paid.
But hang on a minute, there is a massive difference because we are paying for the BBC. I do not want to pay 1.3 million quid for Gary Lineker to spout off, have political opinions and post them on Twitter, which I find offensive.
Stars cost money, and you know the talent pool is very small.
So train more talent. No, train more talent.
They're like footballers, you know. They have to make the money whilst they can. So what's wrong with it? If I were Tim Davie, what I would do is move all of his stars into BBC studios and don't let you know how much they're paid.
Well, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd actually privatise the BBC. I'd say, right, game over. If you believe this is a commercial viable organisation, then fine, and it has global reach, fine, subscribe.
No, but hang on, the argument's now over.
Why is it over?
The licence fee argument's finished.
Why is it? No, it isn't.
Keir Starmer said the licence fee is fine. So the culture war on the BBC has to end.
Well, it's not over, is it? If 500,000 people have actually decided they're not paying and increasing numbers of people are not paying, because quite frankly, the programming output is dreadful.
Is it?
Yes.
I find something to watch on the BBC every night, actually.
Do you?
So,
do you?
I do. I mean,
what are you watching?
I watch Strictly. I will watch Strictly, despite, you know, a few rumbles here and there. You know, that's a confected row. It's about time that the right wing stop their culture war against the BBC. You've lost it.
No. Let me just go back. I worked for the BBC for a very long time, and I loved working there. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant. I know. And when it stuck to the re-themed principles of informing, educating, and entertaining, it did a brilliant job. It is now chasing ratings, and that is not the role of the BBC.
Don't you want it to be popular? I mean, just back to salaries a minute. I mean, how much is Nigel Farage paid? He's
a member of Parliament, isn't he? So he's paid what a member of Parliament is paid.
I'm told 600,000 by talkTV. So you know.
Well, no, he's not on this network for a start, so it's the wrong channel. But hang on a minute. But he works for another channel to this one. But he is paid a commercial salary because it is a commercial organisation.
So should BBC Stars. If the BBC wants to retain its stars, it has to pay them.
So you're saying the BBC should be a commercial organisation then?
No, I'm not. But where I do agree with you is I think they should have just frozen Hugh Edwards' pay and not paid him for that year whilst he was under investigation.
I mean, it does seem like an own goal, that, doesn't it?
That was a very, very silly move. You know, it's just said, all right, your salary is frozen. Let's have the inquiry in, and if at the end of it you come out of it, then you get the money.
So I agree with you about if you're a commissioning house, and there is a difference between, say, the BBC and Channel 4. Channel 4 is a commissioning house, so it commissions independent private companies to make those programmes, right?
So does the BBC.
So does the BBC, but the BBC also commissions itself. through BBC
Yes.
Studios. Now, I would argue that if you are then a commissioning house, you can't then have a production arm. I know it's a commercial arm, and that's how they've hidden the salaries of many other people. And people around the country will be thinking, this cannot be right if we don't know what Claudia Winkleman is paid or Tess Daly, because this is still on BBC One.
I think you're either totally open or totally closed on this. As I said, I would advise Tim Davie to move all his stars into BBC Studio output and not reveal their salaries. Mark Thompson, you remember him?
I do.
When he's director, fought like mad not to reveal salaries, and he was right, because every year there's this row about people's salaries. Talent costs money. The talent is like footballers; they're there for a few years. They're not there forever. So they have to be paid for whatever their market value is, and they have good agents, and we have to accept that.
There are some really odd discrepancies here, and I do wonder what goes on. I was actually talking to Emma Wolfe earlier and saying that, and obviously I have many friends who are presenters at the BBC as well, and I wonder what their view is when they think, well, I'm a really good presenter, and then they look at someone else and think, hang on a minute, they're getting 100 grand more than me.
That's the trouble. It does encourage immense jealousy, doesn't it, amongst presenters? A former head of news said to me spittingly, "Do you know how much Hugh Edwards is paid?" And I didn't ask the figure. She said, it's astonishing, because basically he had an agent, and every year he put it up and up and up. Also, look at their workload as well. Some of them are doing more than one thing. Look at Clive Murray, who's all over the screen. He deserves every penny he gets, in my view.
But in the commercial sector, which I work in now, we work very, very hard. And of course, the commercial realities are such that you are paid according to your talent, but also according to the audience numbers as well. And it's a really cutthroat world. And also, we have to rely on far fewer resources than the BBC do.
This is true, but then you go and you poach BBC talent and you take them into oblivion. Look at the people who've gone to places like LBC, and where's Andrew Marr these days?
LBC.
Where is he?
I believe he's LBC, yeah.
I mean, how many people listen to poor Andrew? What sort of impact does he have? You in the BBC, you get impact, you get money, you get status. But the BBC has a huge number of faults, and the licence fee has to be rethought. I mean,
it does.
Nobody knows that. You can't continue having that tax because it's regressive. You have to rethink and think. And actually, I hate to say it, we have to have maybe a bit of subscription in the BBC. Use the iPlayer as a way of getting subscriptions.
I think you are right there. I do think that, despite the fact we disagree, I think that the nature of television, and certainly you and I would come home and look probably at BBC One first, then ITV 2, 4, whatever. Young people don't. They don't operate like that now. Everything is on demand. We know that many commercial organisations, including this one, now broadcasting online because that's where the audience is. But also, just in terms of that, there is no doubt the BBC will have to adapt and change. Now, if you said to me, the BBC offering the subscription, rather like Netflix, is £7 a month, or £8 or whatever it is, that seems far more palatable to me, because I have chosen to opt in to that system.
Well, I have a solution, David. It's called a hybrid fee. You charge people £100 basic fee, licence fee, for which they see everything once on BBC One, everywhere else. Beyond that, they go to the other side of the paywall, which is called the iPlayer, and they subscribe. And you can have a proms channel, you can have a music channel, you can have a sports channel, because you can afford all those. But you need to have some form of subscription. And also, remember, the BBC is a national film and TV library, so charge people to use that. The BBC has this wonderful resource. It needs to find ways to make money.
Lots of messages on this. Just to respond to this, Andy says the BBC licence is a disgrace. My 91-year-old mother has to pay this and watches old movies on Freeview. Andy in the Midlands.
Well, she should apply for a free licence fee, shouldn't she, if she's poor?
OK. So this one then, Sir Kevin in Barnstable says, Dr Dave, reading an autocue for the news is barely $50,000 a year. These newsreaders are not stars by my estimation. Talent don't make me laugh.
Now, what's your view on that, David?
So there is a real difference between being an autocue bunny, as we call them in the trade, where you do read autocue, and then actually having a command of what is going on in the world. I think that good journalists and serious news presenters are worth paying well for. I have an issue with paying a DJ, Zoe Ball, £1 million to spin discs.
How much would you pay Tom Bradby in the commercial world, do you think? What's Tom Bradby worth?
I don't think we should talk about individual talent like that, but
No,
I don't know.
think he's worth
I'm not.
millions.
I'm not particularly keen to employ him at the moment.
Oh, but he brings people to programs. So does Clive. So do other people. If you want an audience, you need stars, and stars cost money. They're like footballers. Stars cost money.
This is just quite interesting. Let me leave you with this. Peter in Suffolk says, footballers have to earn money while they can. They are all multi-millionaires. The point is there are plenty of ex-footballers who could do Lineker's job, so why do we have to pay him that much? Is he really that good?
He is. He's absolutely superb. Lineker on form is absolutely superb. Leans back and he commands it, and you actually feel the man knows what he's talking about. And only 1.3 million is only the beginning of his salary, remember, because he used to make money out of Walker's Chris. He makes a lot of money out of goal hanger. So Gary Lineker knows how to be a football star. Believe me.
Well, someone needs to take his Twitter account off him. John, very good to talk to you. Thank you very much, John Mayer, ex-BBC producer, author of several books about the BBC.